Our story starts deep in the quiet solitude of the ancient tomb. Here, a young apprentice and his mysterious master begin a training regimen so unique it would forge a bond between them that could never be broken and create a martial art the world had never seen.
Think about that for a second. A martial art made not to kill, but to defeat someone you love. Right away, you know this is going to be different. You see, the skills of the Ancient Tomb Sect weren't forged for war. They were born from this incredibly complex mix of love and rivalry. The whole point was to gracefully overcome one specific opponent, not to destroy them. It's a total flip of everything we think we know about fighting, right?
So, for our young apprentice, Yang Guo, the path to becoming a master didn't start with a sword or a spear. Nope, it started with something way smaller and a whole lot faster. A bird.
Okay, so his master, the incredible Xiaolongnu, gives him his first task: catch sparrows with his bare hands inside a tiny sealed stone room. And trust me, this was no game. It was a grueling, non-stop exercise designed to hone his reflexes, his speed, and his agility until they were, well, razor sharp. And of course, as Yang Guo got better, the training got harder. The room gets bigger. The number of sparrows goes way up. What started as a challenge to catch a few birds in a closet becomes this absolute whirlwind of motion in a great hall, pushing his ability to react to the absolute limit. And then comes the final test, the peak of this whole thing. He has to control a flock of 81 sparrows. That's right, 81, out in the open air. His only tool is his own movement, using it to create an invisible boundary that not a single bird can escape. Talk about supreme control. That's just on another level. So, what was all that for? All of that work was the foundation for a technique called the soft net stance. And the name really says it all. It's not about landing a knockout blow. It's about using all that speed and precision to weave, well, a soft net of movement around your opponent, to ensnare them. It's the ultimate proof that sometimes subtlety is way more powerful than just brute force. But just mastering the physical moves wasn't going to be enough. Not if you wanted to learn the sect's ultimate technique. First, Yang Guo had to understand the hidden story of the ancient tomb, a story about its founder and her legendary rival. So Xiaolongnu tells him this story. Their founder, Lin Chaoying, was a reclusive martial arts genius, and she created her entire style for one single purpose: to defeat Wang Changyang, the founder of the rival Jin sect, and, get this, the man she loved. Every single move she invented was a response, every technique a counter. The whole art form was born from a rivalry that was secretly an unrequited love story. So, the path to mastering the sect's greatest art, the Jade Maiden Sutra, was a three-step journey. First, you master your own art. Second, you master the art of your rival. And only then, once you know both inside and out, could you learn the sutra itself, which was designed to be the perfect counter to every single Quanzhen technique. You literally had to become your enemy to defeat them. But that final stage, that was the big one. It presented a challenge that seemed, well, pretty much impossible. It was a barrier that would test their trust and change their relationship forever. So, what was the problem? It was a huge one. The internal energy practice for the sutra generated so much heat that it required the practitioners to train unclothed, just so the energy could disperse. In the world they lived in, that was an absolutely unthinkable condition for a male student and his female master. But Yang Guo, always resourceful, came up with a brilliant solution. They would practice on opposite sides of a huge, dense flower bush. This natural screen would preserve their modesty, but still let them touch palms through the foliage for support. It was a clever and honestly a surprisingly beautiful way to solve an impossible problem. And the techniques themselves were all built on this foundation of absolute trust. Take pavilion-like canopy. One partner has to willingly fall, completely exposed, trusting the other to become a human shield. This act of vulnerability is actually the setup for a devastating counterattack delivered from under that shield. It's a dance of sacrifice and total reliance on each other. Another move, willing to be iron armor, really gets to the core of their growing bond. It required one person to literally embrace the other, becoming a living shield to absorb an attack. Through this intimate and dangerous practice, the formal lines between master and student just started to fade away. They were replaced by this profound bond of mutual protection and a deep, growing affection. But their isolated world, this fragile paradise they had built for themselves among the flowers and the ancient stones, was about to be shattered by the arrival of outsiders.
And the intrusion was catastrophic. It all started with a simple argument between two rival disciples, which escalated into a duel right near their hidden training spot. Yang Guo, of course, leaped out to push them away from the hidden Xiaolongnu. But in the chaos, a single flower branch was knocked aside, and it struck her at the most critical moment of her practice. The shock caused her internal energy to recoil, inflicting a devastating internal injury. And just like that, the damage was done. Fueled by rage, Yang Guo used the very techniques he had just learned to effortlessly defeat the intruders. But it was a hollow victory. Their sanctuary was violated, and the master he had sworn to protect was now gravely wounded. Their ordeal, however, was only just beginning. When they returned to the relative safety of the tomb, they discovered that a far more dangerous threat, one from their own past, had arrived. Look, those Quanzhen disciples were a problem, sure, but this was on a whole other level. Now they faced Li Mochu, Xiaolongnu's estranged and absolutely ruthless martial sister. Her motivation was pure greed. She had come to steal the Jade Maiden Sutra for herself, and she would let nothing and no one stand in her way. Cornered and outmatched, Xiaolongnu revealed their last resort. It was a hidden mechanism known as the Dragon Cutting Stone. This was a final, desperate gambit, a massive stone block that, once you triggered it, would seal the tomb from the outside world. Forever. No escape. And that left them with a heart-wrenching choice. They could trap their enemy inside with them, but they would be entombed for all time. So that leaves us with one heck of a question to think about. When the only way to survive is to be locked away from the world forever, does a tomb become a prison, or does it become the ultimate sanctuary?